Please, you don't have to do that. I'm grateful. I've had 2 cups of coffee and Tabasco sauce this morning, so you're in for it. I was told 15 minutes, but with that, it may be a little bit longer. But I want to start out first by saying how grateful I am for this organization. For when Jeff Harper asked me to speak here, it kind of took me back a little bit because for, 10 years, I sat back in the back of this room because I'm a Baptist, so that's the first place that I got whenever we came in, and I'd sit back and I would listen to Senator McConnell or Jamie Comer or whoever the big ticket was for the morning to be able to come in and speak to you all about what was either happening in Frankfort or Washington, D.C. And, I was kind of in a shock whenever he asked me to do it. I guess I've gotten to a big enough ticket now that I'm speaking to the Public Affairs Breakfast at Farm Bureau. I told him earlier this morning, I said I spoke to 24,000 people when I was emceeing the Trump event when he came to Louisville back earlier in the year, and I'm more nervous this morning than I was then. And so please forgive me if I'm not on the top of my game. It's because I care about this organization so much. And I just want to say thank you to Farm Bureau, thank you to Mr. Haney, and thank you to Jeff, who really and truly, if we're going to get down to brass tacks on this with Jeff Harper, he likes to crack jokes about me a little bit in Frankfort and on stage here. But whenever we took the majority, really, what happened was Jeff lost a job. Before, he really had to work Frankfort to lobby for things on behalf of Farm Bureau, lobby against things on behalf of Farm Bureau. But I saw him in the leadership of Kentucky Farm Bureau in the office shortly after we took the majority and I became floor leader. And I expressed to Mr. Haney and Mr. Beck and Mr. Gieske and Mr. Melton that they no longer had to worry about paying Jeff Harper. They could probably cut his pay or get rid of his position because I'm now basically the lobbyist for Farm Bureau. So, yeah.
Thank you for being with us this morning.
In Frankfort, a lot of us feel like we work for Jeff, I can tell you. But it is something amazing, the intersection that we have in this state between the agriculture community and government. And that is only due to the organization that you all are a part of, with the leadership of Jeff Harper as your government affairs person in Frankfort, and with the leadership that you all have in this organization. And I'll speak about that a little bit more later on, but my son is here this morning, like Jeff said. Jackson, stand up real quick. He's over here to the left. He's here with us this morning. He's 6 years old, and he sang "I Ain't Getting Nuttin' for Christmas" last night at the play that he had, and he said that he put a frog in Sissy's bed, and somebody snitched on him. So if you're seeing him this morning, he's not getting nothing for Christmas. My wife couldn't be with me this morning. I know that disappoints a lot of you all. I know many of you all know her from our time serving here at Farm Bureau, but she's with my daughter at a dance competition this morning. They had to get there at 7:30 this morning so that she could do her little dance, and my youngest son's with them. So I apologize for the whole family not being here, and they regret not being here as well. But I just want to say again that I'm so thankful, and you're going to hear me say that so many times today speaking to you, of how thankful I am to be able to be a part of this organization. And the motto this year is to lead where you stand, and I feel like that Farm Bureau gave me the opportunity to lead where I stand. And I owe everything that I have right now in my career as a farmer, in my career as a state representative, and really the traditional values that I represent, that you all represent, that you all have helped instill in me, is what helps me be a better father, a better husband, and because of this organization, a better Christian. I mean, I am so grateful for an organization that prays in the name of Jesus. I am so thankful for an organization that whenever they have a fallen member, who they have here recently, and we were walking up the elevator, we went up the elevator last night and was walking to our room, and one of your all's members had a death in the family. And some of the people on this stage right here were praying for that family out in the hallway. That means something. That's an organization that means something to this state. It's beyond the policy. It's beyond what the farming is. It's actual people that you all represent. And I just tell you, it is extremely, it makes me extremely proud to be a part of an organization like that and know that you all had a lot to do, pretty much everything to do with me being where I'm at right now. And I'll tell you why. My story getting involved in Farm Bureau was a great member of our community in Garrett County had passed away due to an accident on the farm. And a man named David Preston, who many of you all know, came to me and he grabbed me by the arm and he said, "Jonathan, we're thinking about nominating you to be on the Garrett County Farm Bureau. And I said, well, I ain't got a clue what that means. I was 18 years old at the time. I just graduated high school, and I was working on the farm, helping manage that. And I think that they may have asked my grandfather first, and he said, no, I don't want to do that. I've been there, done that. Won't you go to the next generation? Go talk to somebody else. And so they came and talked to me, and they ended up putting me on the board. And that was the first time outside of my church that I saw what true leadership was. The members that serve on that board, whether it's John King or Anthony Davis or James Gilbert Edgington or Scott Barnes or the other men that I served with on that Farm Bureau board, I got to see what true leadership was. You know, in Frankfort, a lot of times we see all the bickering back and forth, whether it be about party or whether it be a rural-urban divide or whatever it may be. But on those Farm Bureau boards, if we had a budget shortfall, if we had something that we needed to do, we buckled up and we did it. There wasn't much bickering back and forth because it was the right thing to do. There wasn't a lot of outside influence. We just knew what the right thing was and we tried to do it. And that's what we're trying to bring to Frankfort now. And that influence has greatly helped me in my leadership role in Frankfort. Well, I served there on the board. I became treasurer, vice president, and then I made the biggest regret of my life. I ran for office because then I couldn't serve on the board anymore. They kicked me off of it. You all have got bylaws. They kicked me off the board. I tell people all the time, I've not got any regrets running for office except one. I can't serve in Farm Bureau anymore. So thank you all. We're going to try and get the bylaws changed, I hope, eventually. But I am extremely grateful for my time serving on that board. To be able to be here with you all at the annual meetings, I participated in the discussion meet. I did a lot of things with this organization that helped mold my leadership. And I just cannot express what your all's leadership of this organization means. One of the first votes that I made whenever I came on the Farm Bureau board and was here was my vote for leadership of this organization. And Mr. Haney as president, Mr. Eddie Melton as first vice president, Mr. Fritz Gieske as second vice president. And just being able to make those votes whenever I came here, seeing what they've been able to accomplish as an organization makes me extremely proud. And the leadership that David Beck provides as executive vice president of this organization is invaluable. Whether it's the talks that he has to have with elected officials at midnight and 1 a.m., or whether it's the meetings that he has to go to represent you all, the leadership of this organization is extremely strong, and it is something that you should be extremely proud of as they sit on this stage and as they lead you all through the difficult times that we face, because we have to have a reality check. Our world and our culture is changing, and it's not changing to the values that we represent in this room. And to be able to stand, to lead where you stand as an organization, it takes strong leadership like Mr. Haney can provide. It takes strong leadership like your executive committee can provide. And I am extremely grateful that if we lose hope as an organization, there is still hope in your leadership team because they do an extremely good job representing you all. And there's one last thing that you all did for me in getting to this position, and it was Joe Kane. And he's laughing there because I went to the campaign management seminar that Farm Bureau puts on, and I promote that like crazy. I think it's the best thing that you all do because it gets good people in office. And Joe Kane, whenever we went through that, I said, Joe, I ain't got a clue what I'm doing. I thought I could run a campaign on what me and my wife had in our bank account, and it wasn't that much. And they went through this campaign management seminar with me, and they really gave me a reality check. And so really it's Farm Bureau's fault that I'm in leadership now and in the state as a state representative. So if you're the opposite party and don't agree with what I've done, blame Joe Kane. And then Lynn Parsons, who is here. Lynn, I can't thank you enough for the leadership that you've provided for me at home. He's from Rockcastle County, and Terry Lawson, a state director, is here from Rockcastle County. And Lynn, I just appreciate you so much with the leadership that you provided. Lynn always pushed me, and that was something that our local board did too. I've always been young in the things that I've done so far, and my local board in Garrett County pushed me to get in to be treasurer and get in to be vice president, and then pushed me into a lot of things. And Lynn has pushed me through my career too. And Lynn, I can't express the thanks that I have for you just being there to push me. Sometimes he pushed me down, but he at least pushed me. But we face a lot of challenges as a state. There's no doubt about it that we have challenges as a state, whether it be the challenges that we have in just people who serve, imperfect people who serve, or whether we have challenges with the budget, or whether we have challenges with policy. We have challenges as a state. But because of organizations like this, because of people who represent you in Frankfort, we have people who are leading where they stand, good people who lead where they stand. And there's Some of them here today. Brandon Reed from LaRue County is one of the best representatives that you've got in Frankfort as an ag representative. He's a farmer himself, and he's just, if you don't know Brandon Reed, you need to go up and meet him. I don't know people that have the kind of self-determination that Brandon Reed has. And you get to know him and you'll understand what I'm saying. Rob Rothenberger, who's a farmer also from Shelby County, former county judge, a wealth of experience on the local level. And we also have Kim King here, who was introduced, and she's a farmer herself, her and her husband, Carrie, who hopefully we're going to buy a couple bulls from here in the next little bit. So if you need bulls, Carrie King sells them. I'll give you some free advertisement this morning, Carrie. For King's Ranch, right? All right, if you need some bulls, Carrie may have them. I hope don't buy them all, though, because I got to have 4 of them before too much longer. But leadership's hard. Leadership takes determination. And it's not always easy, and it's not always fun. And that's what we're experiencing right now as a nation, and that's what we're experiencing right now as a state. That's what you're experiencing right now as an organization. On the local and county levels, leadership is not easy, but it's necessary. It's something that we have to provide. Because I'll tell you, if we don't provide it as the people that we are, someone else is going to stand in that position. Someone else is going to move into that position, and they may not believe the way that we do. They may not have the same virtues and determination that we do. They may not want the same things that we want for our communities. They may not want the same things that we want for organizations like this, for rural Kentucky, for farmers. And so it is so important for us to lead where we stand, whether it's in your local county farm bureau or whether it's a determination to run for office or whether it's just on your farm as a family. Instilling values into your people, where you stand, leading where you stand is so important. And that's a great motto for this organization to have. And that's what we've tried to do in Frankfort. When we took the majority, we passed a litany of bills in 2017. Several of them. I think 180 bills is what we ended up passing. There had been penned up interest for so long that we had to let some of that loose. And because of the policies that we passed during this last session, working with the governor's office and the Senate, we were able to pass policies that have created $8 billion in new investment in this state. There's been 15,000 new jobs created in Kentucky this year. Both of those are a record. The last previous high water mark for job development, business development, was $5.1 billion in 2015. We've surpassed that by $3 billion in 1 year. 1 year. And we're not completely done. We've got a month left to go, and hopefully there's some more announcements. But we also passed some things for agriculture, whether it was the weight limit bills for what we were able to do with the chicken industry and the feed industry, or whether it was some cleanup legislation on the hemp industry. We passed some things for the agriculture community too, and we'll continue to do that. I'm extremely grateful and proud of the background that I've got in agriculture. Our family farm is 1,200 acres. We do cattle, tobacco, we do flower greenhouses and a hemp operation. And that's really what kind of molded and shaped me into who I am. And I take those values to Frankfort. And whether we're dealing with the pension issue, which I know some people in here, a lot of people will be concerned about, whether it's because of paying for it or whether it's because of receiving one or a spouse or family member receiving one, we're trying to get that issue right. You've seen that we've not rushed it. I mean, if we were going to rush it, we'd have had a session 3 months ago. But we're trying to get it right. We're trying to do the right thing by that so that we get it done the right way. When we go into 2018 session, there's a lot of things that we've got to start focusing on. And there's a couple of them that I'll just list off. We're going to try and reform the adoption and foster care system in this state. My guess is there's not many people in this room that if I said, have you ever thought about adopting or foster care, and that you wouldn't raise your hand. Because it's something that everybody wants to do, but there's always a but. I would foster care, I would adopt, but it's either too expensive or something else. And we have a chairman in David Mead of our caucus who's been working on that issue so that we hopefully get the buts out of the way. There's no more buts involved in adopting and foster caring in this state, and it's something that I'm extremely proud of. My son Jackson is our adopted son himself, and so we're extremely interested in what happens with the foster care and adoption system in this state. We're going to be working on infrastructure. I was worried that whenever Harper said something about the road fund, he was going to look directly at me and stare me down whenever he said it, because that's always the thing people care the most about in Frankfort whenever the budget comes around is the roads and the bridges. And I can tell you, as a rural Kentuckian, as somebody who lives in a rural community, in a rural road, I know the importance of rural infrastructure. And I will take that into this budget cycle and into this session, understanding what rural development and rural infrastructure means to our state. And so know that you have many, many allies in that as we go through that budget process. Our budget this year, about $20 billion. And just let me say that it will be an austere budget. Just know right now off the top that we have a $138 million shortfall in 2017, and likely the same projection similar in 2018. We have $1 billion new that we've got to come up with in order to fund the pension system. Regardless of what reforms that we do, we have $1 billion new that we have to find. And we also have $2.7 billion in Medicaid spending, and that ain't going down anytime soon until we're able to truly reform that system. And so when you're talking about a $20 billion budget, and already $4 billion of it is already dedicated, and most of that other is dedicated through funding streams from the federal government, it comes down to a very small portion that we've got to be able to work with. And so be patient with us and understand that we're trying to do the right thing. We're trying to make sure that we get common sense back into government, common sense back into the spending habits that we have in government. And we're going to be looking at tax reform. And without going into any details of exactly what tax reform will look like, because none of us know yet, I understand the issues that are important to you. They're important to me too, because we have to raise cattle. We have tobacco. We have to buy fertilizer. We have to do all those things. And so know that the issues that are important to you are also important to me. And they're important to these three people that are in this room and many more who serve in the legislature. And we see it as an added tax. Whenever you're talking about the exemptions that we have as agriculture, we are business. And it is a business tax that we should not pass that will snowball into the consumer, and it'll make it a lot more difficult for us to do our job. And so I understand that, and I know that. And I appreciate the efforts that you all will do on working with us in tax reform to try and get something that we can make sure that our state has the revenue that it needs, but we also don't unduly burden any industry in the state. We're also going to be working on workforce development, which is something that I care a tremendous amount about. We've got a bill called Essential Skills Bill that works on getting life skills back into the classroom for these kids who are graduating and they come out. They don't know that they have to show up to work on time. They don't know that they have to be dressed properly. And my guess is if I asked for a show of hands, everybody in here's hand would go up whenever you either talk about a grandson or granddaughter or somebody you know that's come to work and they show up late all the time, or they don't know exactly what they're supposed to do. They don't know how to take direction or follow direction a lot, or work with a group. I mean, those are things that we're losing as a society. And I'm working on a bill to help with workforce development. When we talk to business and industry, that's the number one thing that they say now, is that they don't have the essential skills, the soft skills that it takes in order to go into the workforce. They can train them how to weld. They can train them how to drive a tractor. They can train them how to use grain machines, but they can't train them how to show up to work on time. It just takes so much time to get them built back into it. They didn't have the motto that my dad had, that go early to bed and early to rise makes you healthy, wealthy, and wise. You'd think that would be taught to every kid that's grown up now. It was taught to me, but it's not. And so we also want to work on rural job creation. A lot of the investment that we're seeing now in the state is going into urban centers. And it's not lost on me as a rural Kentuckian and as the floor leader of the State House that we need rural job creation. We need broadband internet service. We need that infrastructure put in place. And so just know that you have a partner in me as the House Majority Floor Leader and many in our caucus to try and work on rural job creation and putting together a great broadband internet access for our people that are in the rest of the state that are outside of the big municipalities. But we have a lot of challenges. But a lot of challenges also create opportunity. And it is something that I'm extremely grateful and confident in, knowing that we have the leadership that we have in Frankfort, in the Senate, the House, and the governor's office, but also that we have the leadership in an organization like this. Whether it be your president, Mr. Haney, or whether it be in your government affairs and Jeff Harper, this organization has the leadership that it's going to take in order to move us in a new decade starting yesterday at 30, but also for us moving into new generations, for you all in leading where you stand in this organization. I'm extremely grateful to Kentucky Farm Bureau, and to use last year's motto, Kentucky Farm Bureau loves Kentucky, and I love Kentucky Farm Bureau. Thank you all very much.